Okay people, let's talk about it. We might be in trouble. It's a beautiful winter, cold morning here in Sydney, Australia, and we are going to talk about it. If you clicked on this video, you probably live in your vehicle, just like me. So here's a question for you. Is banning overnight stays from public car parks a solution to try to prevent people living in vehicles from trashing these places and turning them into campgrounds? I don't know, but I'm searching for the answer. I've been living in my van for almost 10 months now, full time. And since I'm based here in Sydney around the same area in the North Shore, I've been noticing that the council is cranking down on restrictions when it comes to staying overnight at public car parks. And I believe that if we, people living in vehicles, don't really pay attention to what's going on around us, and also don't pay attention to the things that we do and we don't do, we might realize that we have something to do with this. Just before we move on, quick story. Every time I'm working on a video, for some reason, I think people in creative spaces go through that all the time. It's a well-known sort of process that people go through. I start working on a video, love the idea, love what I'm doing, I'm writing the script, and then I start shooting the video and working on a video, and I start just thinking, what am I doing? Like, this is a silly topic. I start second guessing myself a lot and just feeling this is a silly topic. Why am I even writing about it? Why am I even spending my time? Nobody cares about this. And this happened again with this video. But to be honest, my idea around this topic was a little bit different, and I just wasn't feeling that it was really sort of focusing in the area that I wanted to approach, that I wanted to talk about. So I just scratched everything, put my camera away, and went to a coffee shop to grab a coffee. And recently I've been trying to do this thing where I'm trying to go especially to coffee shops without my phone, so I can be a normal person and look around and interact with the barista and just not be on my screen all the time, and really thinking about being more aware of my surroundings. And then I was just like flicking through magazines on a stack, and then I just happened that I grabbed the magazine that was just at the bottom of this stack. And funny enough, the magazine, which is right here with me, had on the cover a headline that said "Carpark camping divides locals." And I was like, okay, I think that my initiative to stay more aware of my surroundings really worked. And I read the article and I was like, okay, let's go back to that idea and work on that video, because this is something that we need to talk about. So the article, let me start with the article. The article, it's really well written, and it has a really nice tone, and it's really trying to approach the issue in a very conciliatory manner. And on one side, the locals who live near these car parks, and they're concerned that the car parks are going to turn into messy, noisy campsites, which is a legitimate concern, and I share this concern too. I don't want car parks turning into just a mess, you know, with a lot of vans and people thinking that they can do whatever they want. But on the other side, we have us, people living in vehicles who need the space to park during the day, to hang out, and more importantly, a spot to park at night when we need to go to sleep. And just a few months ago, I started to notice that these signs were popping up everywhere, and especially in car parks that I normally park to hang out during the day and very often to sleep at night as well. But notice that the sign says no camping or overnight stays. We'll come back to that in a second. And I've been traveling around Australia for more than a decade now, and I can tell you, when it comes to parking your vehicle at night at public car parks, we have 3 different levels of restrictions. The first one is no restrictions at all. The parking signs only cover restrictions during the day, and there are no signs saying that you cannot park overnight or stay overnight. The second one is the one I just showed you, which is you can park during the day, you can park during the night, but you cannot stay overnight. And the third one is a very clear restriction when it comes to parking at night, normally from midnight to 5 a.m., in which case you cannot park. It doesn't matter what you're doing, you cannot park your vehicle there. If you park there, you're gonna fine. In which case you don't really have to, if you're sleeping in your vehicle, you don't really have to worry about getting a knock in the middle of the night, because police or rangers are not really gonna do anything like that. Police is just gonna leave you a fine on your windscreen, in which case you might as well enjoy it, because you're probably going to pay 275 Australian dollars. You should probably just sleep in and enjoy, because you're paying hotel prices anyway. You might as well just enjoy your stay. So to recap, parking at night at public car parks in Australia. No restrictions at all. You cannot stay overnight or camp, and you cannot park overnight. And again, I'm only talking about nighttime. During the day, all you have to do just to look at the signage and follow the rules. Otherwise, you get a fine. And as I was reading the article, I became aware that the reason why these signs were popping up around the North Shore of Sydney was because locals were going to the council and requesting those signs to be put up. And the only issue I have with that is the motivation of some of the locals to request that to the council. So the argument of some of the locals is just that they don't want people living in vehicles to be able to enjoy ocean views for free or paying low prices, because they had to pay $2 million or more, probably way more than that, to have a house by the beach. So they don't want us, people living in vehicles, just to be able to park and enjoy the same view. They don't think it's fair. And also they don't want too many people to use their beautiful shower facilities, which have hot showers. I don't know what that type of thinking is called, but I'll let you give it a name. So you see, I'm all for protecting the order, the beauty of car parks and beaches in Australia, but I don't really believe that this is a good place to come from. What we should really try to prevent is car parks turning into messy, noisy campsites, which I'm all for it. Residents, locals, I'm on your side. I want exactly the same thing, and I am as concerned as you are. I don't think we should be arguing about where you are when you're looking at the ocean, if you are in a beautiful $5-10 million house, or if you are inside your vehicle, or who is using the hot showers or not. I don't think that's the good place to come from. And if you really think about it, normally the behaviors that turn a public car park into a campsite, they don't happen during the night. They happen during the day. You don't believe me? Let me show you. This is what an overnight stay looks like. And this is what someone during the day turning a public car park into a campground looks like. You see, I've been hanging out in car parks, like I said, for the last 10 months around the same area in the North Shore of Sydney. And these behaviors happen during the day. People go to sleep at night. They're not throwing parties and barbecuing outside and, just throwing rubbish everywhere. And also the regulation is trying to avoid overnight stays from happening. But I wonder if the rule is really effective. So here's the thing, I cannot stay inside this beautiful van overnight, but I can park legally overnight. So a car with no human being inside is okay, but if there is a human inside the car, there is a problem. I don't know if they thought this one through deep enough, to be honest with you. Because what happens if I am inside my van at a car park where overnight stays are not allowed, and I get a knock in the middle of the night from a police officer or ranger, and I just stay quiet inside? Don't open the door. What happens? So an overnight stay technically is not happening because I'm just a car legally parked. So you might say, well, maybe the council will put up restrictions around overnight parking, not overnight stays in those car parks. That can happen, but I don't think it's very likely, to be honest. And if you don't live in Australia, precisely in Sydney, you probably don't know that garages are a luxury item in this country. You just walk around and you see during the night the streets are packed with cars just because there are not enough garages in the old buildings of Sydney. And some people use those public car parks to park overnight because, well, the streets are packed. I guess you could do that, but then you have to create a permit system, and then it costs money, and they're gonna have to ask all the residents to go to the council to get a sticker to put on a windscreen, and it's gonna be a big mess. I don't think that's the answer, to be honest. So you see what I mean? How do we then address the issue? How do we solve this? How do we take into consideration the concern of residents not wanting genuinely and reasonably public car parks to turn into campsites, but at the same time we allow us, people living in vehicles, to move freely and park wherever we want during the day, and especially to park at night when we need to go to sleep? How do we do that? Well, in my opinion, we learn how to coexist. And I know that's easy for me to say, so how do we do that? Well, I believe that the responsibility sits with us starts with us, people living in vehicles. We give power to who we blame, right? So let's blame ourselves and do something about it. And I really think this is a really good part of the video to mention that everything that I'm saying in this video, I'm talking about people living in vehicles out of choice, which is my case. I do understand and respect that some people live in their vehicles out of necessity, but in my case, I'm living in my van because I want to, because it suits my lifestyle and I love it. And everything that I'm talking about in this video relates to people living in their vehicles out of choice. So van life community, let me talk to you. How come the responsibility sits with us? Whether we like it or not, we are the innovators here. People have been living in houses or apartments for longer than we have been living in vehicles, and we need to accept that. And I also don't believe that the number of people choosing to live the mobile lifestyle will decrease anytime soon. Just look at the trends. Raising cost of living and properties, remote work is a reality. Consider the advancements in technology, allowing us to live inside a car, a van, or an RV with the comforts of home. I've got an induction stove, an air fryer, hot water, beautiful accommodations, a very comfortable bed, space, a nice fridge. And on top of that, more and more van conversion companies are opening everywhere. And that's a recipe for growth, which, as I said before, just shows me that people living in vehicles and people living in houses need to learn how to coexist. So back to my point, if the responsibility sits with us, people living in vehicles, what should we do, or even better, not do, if we don't want to make people uncomfortable around us when we are parked up for the day or for the night in public car parks? Because if we don't make people uncomfortable and we don't get in the way, people therefore will have no motivation to go to councils and ask for more restrictions to be put in place. So let me share with you what I think. So here's the list of the 10 things that I do and don't do to try to not be part of the problem. Number one, and this one could be the only one really, I just don't behave like I'm in a campground, because I'm not. Number two, I do not deploy my awning and put chairs underneath the awning to set up my living room space, because if I'm showing up at the car park with one car, I'm entitled to one parking bay. Number three, I try my best to not cook food outside, especially if the car park is busy. Okay, sometimes I do make myself a coffee after a surf at the back of the van, but I try to make it quick and not make a big fuss about it. Number four, I just don't open all my doors and hang out inside the van, watch a movie, cook my food, exposing my house and my belongings to everybody around it. People are in the car park. They don't want to really look inside your house. Number five, and this one does not necessarily relate to car parks, but if I have to park on a street, I just don't park in front of people's houses, just go somewhere else. If I have to park on a street, I try to find a spot to park that it's not right in front of someone's house. Number six, I try my best to not park in the exact same spot every day. Just try to find, I don't know, between 5 to 10, which is what I have probably around the area here in Sydney, 5 to 10 different spots that you can just rotate. At the end of the day, the fun part of living in a van, living in a vehicle, is the ability to move around. Number seven, this one goes without saying. Just don't leave trash behind. Come on, people. We all know that. Number eight, I just don't do a cleanup in my van at a public car park. When I have to do it, which sometimes I have to, just like in a house, sometimes you have to get everything out of a van and do a cleanup. I just don't do it in a car park. I just book myself a campground and that's where I do it. Number nine, I've seen people doing this. I just don't think it's a good idea to fill up your water tanks in public taps, in public car parks or boat ramps. When I have to fill up my water tanks, I normally go to a campground or a service station or a family member's house. Just don't do it in a car park. It's not good luck. And number 10, I never hang my clothes on fences around the van. I consider my house to be inside the van and not outside of the van. And unfortunately, I've seen that happening in Byron Bay a few months ago, and the couple wasn't doing anything wrong or illegal. They were legally parked. They were just doing their own thing, but they were parked in the car park, cooking outside with bacon and eggs and smoke and music and the dog and the chairs and the awning deployed, and with their clothes hanging on a fence, and people were sort of trying to walk around to walk their dogs in the morning. I just don't think it's a good look. Like I said, in my opinion, my house is inside the van and not outside the van, and I don't want to make people uncomfortable around me. And again, putting the responsibility on us if we don't want councils to put up restrictions around parking and things like that. It starts with us, and if we watch what we do or what we don't do, I think the chances of people getting uncomfortable around us and going to the council to complain and restrictions being put up are way lower. So let's do our part and be part of the solution, not of the problem. So there you have it. This is the list of the 10 things that I do and or don't do when I'm living out of my van in public spaces. And by the way, have you hit the subscribe button already? Have you liked the video? If you're still watching, you're probably enjoying it. So why not? You know, when I started putting together the script for the first version of this video, I was going to talk about stealth camping, stealth living. I was going to discuss the idea of camping or living in your van. And I changed my mind when I had that breakdown that I wasn't really happy with the video, when I went to grab the coffee and then found the magazine with the article that originated the idea for this video. And this is a big topic in the van life community. People talk a lot about the knock that you can get in the middle of the night if you're caught sleeping in your car in a car park, or having a stealthy van and living stealthily and strategies to hide and things like that. If you go on YouTube, you can find like a ton of videos talking about that. And to be honest, some of them are pretty good. And I got a lot of ideas and tips on how to do things at the beginning of my van life journey. But at this stage, I'm very happy I did not talk about that. And I was able to sort of reframe what I think and how I feel about the topic. And at the end of the day, I don't really think that the stealthy conversation is the right one to have. I don't want to have a stealthy camper van. This is a full-on camper van, and it's beautiful and I love it. When you look at it, yes, that's a camper van. And I also don't want to live my life stealthily, hiding from society. I chose to live this way. I am very proud of it and I'm very happy with my choice. I'm a contributing member of society. I pay my taxes, I work, I add value to the communities I'm around. And if this video was able to contribute to the right conversation, and I'm very happy about that. And I think that the right conversation is the idea of coexisting with Vanlifers and people living in vehicles. Like I mentioned before, this is not going to stop anytime soon. Van life is here to stay, and it's been around for a long time. And it's on us. It's on us living in vehicles, I think, to be reasonable, to have common sense, and do the right thing. Because at the end of the day, I think we all know what the right thing to do or to not do is. And on top of that, I'm pretty sure that this is not only relevant for the Australian van life community. So if you are based in another country, US, Europe, South America perhaps, chime in on the comments below and share your experience, share what the regulations are in your country and just what you think about it. If you are a resident, a local who lives near a car park and you've been noticing van activity and people living in vehicles, behaving nicely or perhaps not so much, share your view, share your opinion as well. Like I said before, let's talk about it. So I think this is a good place to end the video. And let me tell you, if you're still watching, you are probably really into van life and life on the road stuff. And if you're also a coffee drinker, maybe click on this video over here that I just posted a few weeks ago, where I talk about how to brew the best coffee on the road. I show you the gear that I use to make coffee in the morning. And I also explain how to use the gear, and I show you how to make the best coffee. So that's it for this video. I'm gonna sign off. I'm getting out of here. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Let's do this. Drink break. Oh no, 80 milligrams of caffeine. Why are you overheating? Garages are so you might say, well, maybe the council will for overnight over. So you might say maybe the council will put up a restriction for... That's not good. I think we need to learn how to coexist. Coexist? Is that how we say coexist? That sounds weird. I'm in, and the police is driving through right now. Come on, how many police cars do we need? It's really hard to end a video. I've recorded like 10 different endings and they all seem to suck. So I'm just gonna say goodbye. Goodbye.